Right, hello. We have got 4 people in our meeting tonight. This is just an opportunity for prospective students and parents to ask a little bit about the Fashion and Textiles A-level course. I have got 2 of my wonderful students here with me. I'm Nikki, by the way, I'm head of department, and I have got Eva and I have got Ida, 2 of my second year students here tonight. So if you would like to ask any questions, or if you would like me to describe a little bit about the course, could you possibly just put in the chat and perhaps ask some questions for us? If we don't get any questions, I will describe the course a little bit, and perhaps the students will have a little say about what they want to do. But if anybody's got any questions for us, we would very much like to answer your questions. Nobody's typing. Maybe they're not even listening, I don't know. But yeah, okay. Does a lack of experience matter?
I don't think it does.
No, we learn it from the basic. Every step we learn it.
So we have students that come in who do not have a creative GCSE, but we do prefer them to have had a fine art or textiles or something, photography even, or 3D. So we do prefer that. If you can draw, it helps, but we do build skills all throughout the first year. But what we have to do is on enrollment, you have to bring a few drawings or a few things that you've made, little portfolio, maybe 4 or 5 pieces or 3 or 4 pieces, to just show us that you have got some creative input, you know, some creative skills. Okay. What does the course of course overview, guys? What would you say about? So the first year is 4 projects.
Yeah.
What did you do first and foremost?
We do like a recycle and remade project. So it's like upcycling garments, and it just kind of gets you used to using like the sewing machines, and yeah, just kind of working with like materials and stuff.
And then we went into our
textiles
project, which is 7 weeks project, where you learned
about like how to do screen print or like all the textiles design processes.
the design process. So we basically go out and research. We might go to the V&A, or we go to galleries or exhibitions. The students will do observational drawing. They then turn that drawing into textile ideas. Then we give them lots of different fabrics and different processes, whether it's transfer dyes or screen printing or cyanotype, and they try out all these different processes, and then they create their designs on paper, and then their favorite design, their final design, they will make into fabrics with the processes that they've learned. Then they'll design a garment, but they won't make that garment. Then the third project,
It's
fashion history.
Yeah, fashion history. And that's when you make like your first like proper garment, and you cut your own pattern and everything. And yeah, it's all from your own designs.
So again, the design process is we go out, we collect research, we go to Chertsey Museum or V&A, Museum of London, we've been to Bath Museum before, collect all this research. Again, they draw observational drawings, then they digest it, they take little bits and pieces from the history of fashion that they've learned about, and then they pattern. We teach them how to pattern cut from mainly the bodice to start off with, and then they design and create their first garment. And then at the end of the year is project 4, which is the exam project.
Yeah, we chose our own title and we worked through like from the research to making the garment. It's like a opportunity for us to show what we learned throughout the year.
And so at the end of the first year, then they will, that project also helps, and throughout the year, sort of gives them their UCAS grade for going into their second year. At the end of the first year, we really start the second year. And in the second year, it's 2 projects, a 60% coursework project, and then there's an externally set task, which is the same process, which is 40%, but they actually do it under controlled assessment. So they create their final piece in 15 hours. So there's the 2 projects in the second year. Any other questions we can see? Can you do textiles and art? Absolutely.
Yeah, I do that.
So explain which subjects you do.
So I do fashion and fine art, and then psychology as well. But yeah, you can do both. Obviously, it's a lot of coursework because they're quite coursework heavy subjects. But yeah, it is doable, and if you do really like it, then the work's okay. But yeah.
And Ida, you do?
I'm doing fashion, 3D design, media, and Turkish.
So
quite a lot of courses.
And we have lots of subject combinations. So we have students that want to go off and do different academic degrees. So they might be doing fashion with 2 academic subjects. We've got maths, and who's doing maths? Is somebody doing maths?
Yeah,
Chelsea. Yeah. And I've had students go off and do veterinary practice, so they've done chemistry, biology and fashion. It actually went to their benefit because the practical skills really, she got into every single university she applied for. Some go off to do law, with anthropology, history, all different degrees, but the majority of them go on to creative degrees, or a lot do a foundation course. Anything else? How much actual sewing is involved? Yes, they do get tuition in sewing. Some
I think we start sewing from the beginning of first year.
Yeah, like
in every step we do, except for the textile design. We use sewing, but not as much if we don't prefer the sewing machine involved textile design processes. But we pretty much use it a lot.
You're making garments at the end. It's not textiles for fine art. It's most definitely for fashion. So everything that we make is either a garment or a textile that's for a garment. So it is very much fashion driven. Students do a lot of secondhand research. So you'll look into fashion designers. Every bit of homework in the first year really is teaching them how to research, whether it's getting ideas from first-hand objects or whether or not it's getting it second-hand from designers. They do look at a lot of designers to inspire them for their own creations. Would you be able to do fashion, graphics and photography? You would if you were very, very, very dedicated. I've had one student do fashion, fine art and photography about 4 years ago, and she was outstanding. It's a huge commitment. I would almost say that sort of
time management.
Yeah, time.
Yeah.
You can hear it from the students, guys. Time management. Okay, so learning to use the rooms, the equipment for studies, independent study. Yeah, so just explain a little bit about independent study and what's expected of you.
So is it 10 hours a week? And yeah, you're expected to do that on top of your timetabled lesson hours. And yeah, well, with fashion, you can always, if the room's free, you can always come in and work. So
if not, you can use the corridor. There's
we find space for them where they want to come in and work. We very, very rarely throw a student out. We try, we always find space for them. We have students putting pattern cutting paper on floors in corridors if they can't get into either of the classrooms. Usually there is a spare classroom, but on some occasions we're teaching first years and second years at the same time. But you know, it's very, very common. What time did you leave last night? 6:30.
Yeah.
So it's very common for students to sort of, use the facilities if there's a member of staff in the room. Okay. Can you do textiles by itself? No, sorry, you can't. It is the course. You could do it through art and design BTEC. So they do textile design. You can sort of gear, if you did art and design BTEC, you can sort of skew it towards textiles, but you would have to do other things as well. So they sometimes do screen printing and textile design, but our course is sort of textiles and fashion, so you can't do it independently.
I saw someone ask, is it all coursework?
Is it all coursework? Yes.
Yeah.
It's all coursework. We do have what we call exams, and there is an exam at the end of the first year, which is a mock exam for the second year. But when we call it an exam, it's a controlled assessment. So when you go into your exams, you've done every single bit of prep work. So you've done all your research, you've created your sketchbook, you've got all your design ideas, everything is drawn, the patterns are created, you cut everything out before you go into your exam. So in the 10 hours in the first year and 15 hours in the second year, you're just literally making up the garments, but everything else is prepared. All the screen printing's done previously, all the laser cutting, everything is done before. Are there specific styles of fashion you have to create, or can you choose your own style? You guys better answer that.
So the teachers are here to lead us. We are choosing our. In the first year, we kind of do like the titles are given to us, but at the end of the first year, when we do our exam project, we start to get our own way of in our project.
So if I might actually just show you this, because this one has actually, so this girl's was called, in her coursework, she chose the word stretch. So she looked at all different sorts of things in stretch. She looked at springs, she looked at trains. I hope you can see that, you can. And so she looked at telephone wires and all different types of, she did laser cutting, she did machine embroidery, different types of stretch in all areas of life. They can get their inspiration from anything, okay? And she looked at crinolines and how springs work. She looked at people that have used a lot of pleating in fabrics, so designers such as Issey Miyake.
I think this is one of the final.
Oh, sorry. So it is, they sort of do lots of exploring. They might be making little collars, they might be making little cuffs to demonstrate their techniques. And this is actually a garment that was her final garment. And you can probably see there that she's got these sort of areas that sort of look like sort of kind of, it was actually supposed to represent the in-between stages of the train that all stretch out. She's used stretch fabric, and then she's got a lovely pocket here that comes down and stretches out. Okay, so that's sort of, they're sort of trying to interpret their titles, their areas of research. And some want to do more costume design, and some want to do sort of more, we've got one boy that's obsessed with combats and all he wants to make is combats. I don't mind as long as the research is there, and
it links together.
And it all links together, and they do the research and they do the design process. Could I do fashion and music tech? Absolutely. And we've had garments that, we had one boy who did, he was always mixing, I don't know, and he used to print off his, I don't know what they're called, tabs when you make, I don't know, technical music, and he printed them all on the base. He wrote a song and he printed it all on the in fluorescent print, all on the base of his jacket. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So music tech and fashion, yes, absolutely.
Do you do a written exam?
No written exam. The only bit of written work we expect is in annotations and sketchbooks, and then in the second year, guys, what
we
do you
have
do?
related study.
Which is, Ava?
It's a essay, is it 3,000? Yeah, 3,000 word essay, and it relates to your projects. So
So it might, so for example, the girl that chose stretch, I know that her essay was all about stretch fabrics. So she really looked into the properties about stretch fabrics. So it can be all sorts. What's your related study called?
Mine's called How Has the Vanity of Footwear Affected Health? Because my title is excess, so I'm looking at like big platform shoes and winkle pickers as well. And yeah.
So that's the only bit of written work, and that's 12% of the whole A level. So that is there. In the second year, the first project is worth 60%, and a fifth of that is the essay. But it's not under exam conditions at all. Can you do art and design BTEC as well as fashion and textiles? Yes, we have lots of students that do double art and design. And the person that was asking about 3 creative subjects, that is very common to do double art and design BTEC and fashion, or double art and design BTEC and another creative subject, not fine art, because that does cross over quite a lot. But double art and design and fashion, yes, absolutely. How many times a week are the fashion classes? How many fashion classes are there? What do you have every week? A double? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
double and 2 singles.
Yeah. One double, and they are 1 hour and 5 minutes each. So we have a nice double lesson, which we usually get through quite a lot, and then we get an opportunity to see the students for a single lesson each, 2 single lessons, which when they're staggered through the week, it means if there's any catch up, we can always sort of see them sort of at the beginning of the week or the end of the week. So it's nice structure. And then on top of that, as Ava said, we expect 10 hours per week per subject. So 6 hours of, well, sort of 5 hours, 40 minutes we expect you to do independently, whether that's at home or whether or not it's in college. What's the difference between BTEC fashion and textiles? A-level fashion. Well, we don't run a BTEC fashion course here. We only do BTEC fashion, art and design. I wouldn't know about other BTEC fashion courses, I'm afraid. I only know about our A-level course. What's the mix of male and female generally in the subject? It is more, there are more girls. We do have, how many have we got in the first year? I think we've got 4 boys in the first year. I've had up to 11 boys one year, 12 boys. It is more, there are more guys, but you know, they usually get quite spoilt by the girls. So it's never been a problem. It's never been a problem. What is the difference between? I cannot see the chat.
Do you have to have textiles GCSE?
No, you don't have to have textiles GCSE, but we do prefer a creative GCSE, whether it's fine art or photography or something. And I mean, there is a lot of drawing. I must admit there is drawing, but we do have students that have got weak drawing skills, and we work with them. And by the end of it, I mean, it's amazing to see the improvement. Sometimes it's super.
How many people are in a class?
How many people are in a class? I have got one class of 18, which is rather large. We can accept up to 19 in a class. In these guys' year, we've got 4 groups. So we've got 4 classes. At the moment, I think I've got 107 students over the 2 years. It's bigger second year than it is first year at the moment. But usually we have 3 sets. And there's usually about 14, 15, 16. Yeah. So at the moment, I've got a few with only 13 in, which is nice. But usually in the first year, there are about 17, 18, 16, 17 in a class.
Does DT count as a creative?
Yes, it does. I would also, if you have done DT, that's fine. That you probably will be quite good on 3-dimensional things, which is really important when you're doing pattern cutting. Anybody that's good at maths, that's usually very good for pattern cutting. All those people that are good at maths are quite good at pattern cutting. So yes, absolutely, DT does count. If you've just done food tech, then we would want to see some drawings or something that you've made Does it work well with science? It can do. I've had lots of students do sciences before, yeah. My girl that went off to become a vet, she did chemistry, biology and fashion. The science people will probably, if you want to go on to do a degree related to science, they may try to advise you that it's might not be the best thing. But I actually think that universities now are seeing students that have got a creative, it's a different part of the brain that you're using, and they actively like a creative A level as well, because it shows something else, other than, you know, they probably get loads of people applying with two sciences and a maths or something, whereas if you've got a creative degree as well, it shows a different side to your personality.
Someone said, what grade do you have to get in textiles GCSE?
I got 5 and I'm here.
And she's a super student. You only really need a 4, but I mean, most of the students here have got 7, 8s and 9s that do choose it because they want. No, that's not true. Actually, we have lots of 6s and things like that. But I'm sure you got a 9, did you? Yeah. So, you know, it is. And as Ida said, she got a 5 and she's an amazing student. And your drawing skills have improved phenomenally over the last year.
Thank you.
So, and also you have only been in the country since you were
2 years.
2 years.
11 months.
So that's the other thing we really encourage. So if anybody has got any sort of mixed heritage or anything like that, it's always really nice for students as well to, when they're doing research. We had one student last year whose parents were Indian but were originally from Kenya, and then she did this beautiful project on heritage. So often, you know, we had 2 Turkish students actually last year who actually did use some of their cultural background in their final pieces, which was phenomenal. It was beautiful. And often if they're interested in something and they know about something, then it's nice to share with their peers, but it's also they feel confident in their development, and it's just nice for them, you know, to share with their families and everybody. So we do really encourage any kind of whether it's visiting the British Museum and seeing something from Egyptology or whatever, they research all different areas. As the A level fashion, it is an art and design A level. It comes under art and design, and we do use the same exam board as fine art, graphics, 3D and fashion. So we all use OCR, and so it's basically the same exam, but we teach it in a different strain. So they allow you to create your course, which we have done, and we all mark in the same way, which is actually really beneficial when it comes to assessment, because we have big internal cross moderation, which the OCR have commented how accurate we are in marking. So it's very beneficial to have the support of the other departments. Is it good for sustainable fashion? Guys, how many people are interested in sustainable fashion, do you reckon, in your year?
I mean, I know I am.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. So we encourage all upcycling, recycling. We love donations. I've had 3 lovely donations of fabric this year over the holidays, where perhaps people that have been very interested in fashion in the past, and grandmas have died and so forth, and people have, you know, passed on old fabrics and even old vintage patterns we've had this year, haven't we? Yeah. Wools and threads and everything. So we try and be as sustainable as we can as a department. So we do reuse fabrics. But yes, and there's so many of them are interested in sustainability, and we wholeheartedly encourage trips to the design museum or books, reading about, and we do, you know, talk about sustainable fashion. And in fact, a couple of years ago, we had in a very successful designer called Patrick McDowell, who, if you look up, he is very sustainable. He's now the design director for Pinko as well. So he did his whole collection. He was a St Martin's graduate, and he used Swarovski end-of-line crystals that nobody wanted, and Burberry sponsored. So he used all ex-stock fabric. So yes, sustainability is very much encouraged. Would you recommend any courses to do beforehand?
St Martin's do
Yeah.
summer courses.
And Kingston as well.
Yeah.
Kingston do some courses as well. Kingston University, St Martin's University, LCF, I think used to do one. And then there are also little short courses that you can do at the Fashion Retail Academy.
There's also online free courses.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. And the only thing I would say is that the ones that are at the universities are quite expensive. Did you do the St Martin's
No,
one?
I didn't, but I looked at it.
I know
and
they're
it
quite
was-
expensive.
Yeah.
We have had some students do
I
them.
did 2 summers ago in Sancho St Martin's 1 week of fashion design beginners fashion design. It was great, but it didn't really give me that much skill that like helped me here.
Probably gave you confidence though
Yeah.
before. So if you do feel, I mean, all I would say is read magazines, look at Vogue, go to libraries and look at vintage patterns and, you know, vintage historical fashion books. Fashion is very cyclical. So what we see, you know, from it comes back so many times. So something that was in the 20s, you know, repeats itself. Even when you look at the shape of the mini skirt in the 60s, it was actually very, very similar to what was going on in the 20s. What's going on in the world has an enormous factor on fashion. I don't know whether you notice, I always said, I bet you after COVID we'll suddenly get very masses and masses of bright colours. If you walked into Zara straight after COVID in this summer, oh my goodness, the fluorescence that were going on were pretty, so, you know, it does have, it is cyclical and things come back. If you look at the amount of combat pants that people wear, really they were started through military clothing during the war. So, you know, it is very, very cyclical. But just read books, buy magazines or online. What have students gone on to study at university? Where are you applying to, guys?
Well, I want to do an art foundation next year, but then after that, I want to study women's wear. So, yeah.
And Ida, you're going to
product design.
Ida's going to do product design because she also does 3-dimensional design. And where are you going to? You know?
At the moment, I got offer from Nottingham, Trent, and Bournemouth, but I applied for Leeds, Edinburgh, and Central St Martin's.
Good. So they go on to all different types of courses. We have some going on to fashion business courses. Fashion communication is one of the ones that's very, very popular now. Fashion promotion, women's wear, men's wear. A lot of them, if they're going on to do women's wear or men's wear, will do a foundation year first, which is the only bit of free education that you can really get. And a lot of the universities have closed them, sadly. But St Martin's do one, Kingston do one, Farnham does one. And then that gives you a little bit more opportunity to decide whether or not you want to do men's wear, women's wear, accessories, swimwear, contour, or you want to go and do something more on the sort of promotion side. Fashion photography, they go on to all sorts of different degrees. Costume's been really, really popular the last few years since COVID, and I've put it down to the high street dying because of the recession and COVID, and everybody sitting at home watching films, Netflix, and I think there's a massive surge into the interest in film. So costume, 2 of my very top students from last year one's gone to Edinburgh, one's gone to Nottingham Trent to do costume design. So that's very popular as well at the moment. Any more before we shut down, because we've actually run over? Could you initially take 4 A levels and then drop one later on?
I am doing 4 A levels.
But you're doing it a bit differently because you're
Yeah,
doing Turkish on your
yeah.
own. So we really, really do not recommend it. That used to be the system when it was the old ASs. It's an enormous amount because they're linear now. So you start the course off, so you will have a massive amount of work if you're doing 4. I have one of the students last year did 4, year before last. She was straight 9s in every single subject in her GCSEs. She was she was very gifted creatively and academically. So there have been the odd student do it, but because universities don't require it, you know, it's really, we prefer students to do really well in 3 subjects. And if you spread yourself too thinly, it can have an effect in terms of grades. You do have a little window for up until half term, where if you start a course and you really don't think it's for you, there is an opportunity to change. I would recommend that rather than starting with the 4 and dropping.
But we do have complementary studies.
Good girl, yeah.
So that's it's not an actual A level, but it's it's I think it was one lesson a week of just something else that you're interested in. So I did photography in the first year because I wanted to take that as an A level, but I didn't end up doing it. But yeah, I had that one lesson a week where I learned all the skills that I needed, and that feeds into fashion and art as well.
Brilliant.
We also have one right now. You can either do art portfolio or you can choose maths, beginning maths, or different types of lessons. We have in this year as well one.
So in the second year, you can also, there's another one which is almost slightly bigger, and you can also do another academic qualification which is called an EPQ, and the EPQ gives you as much as half an A level. And a lot of universities, my son's doing history at Manchester, and something like history or law, anything that's sort of an academic subject that you are going on to, they may say, we will give you an offer of AAB if you also get an A in your EPQ. So there is an opportunity to get another an extra qualification in your second year. And I think that's going to be it from us. There's one saying how much freedom within the course. We'll just finish with that one.
I think there is a lot, because obviously you get to, well, towards the end of the first year and second year, you pick your titles, and then all the research is like independent, like you choose where you want to go, so you can like see what exhibitions you want, and then it's all coming from your own research and your own like interests.
We very much encourage independent learning, and because that's the way they will have to do it when they get onto their next stage of learning. So the more skills they build at A level, the easier the next steps are. Obviously the first year is very guided, and there are certain projects that you have to do, but the second year is very much more driven by you. So I think they enjoy that a lot. Yeah. Okay, guys, we're going to say bye-bye, and we'd very much like you to come onto the Fashion Textiles course if you're interested. I want to say thank you to Ava and to Ida, and we hope to see you when you arrive at Esher. Thank you. Bye-bye.